welcome to this training 20. We are working on a deadlift today for our functional Friday. So yeah, last Friday we did hip hinge and deadlift. So today we just focus on it more because it's one of the hardest exercises to learn being a beginner, and just really important to learn in terms of keeping your back healthy and functioning from the hips. So we're going to just really delve into the deadlift today. We're going to start on the floor for a number of reasons. I'll talk you through that as we go. Now I did put it on the post about needing a stick today. It's not vital, you can do all the exercises without one, but if you can get one, then it will really help you out with your learning in terms of your positioning and how it all feels. So you just need something like a broom handle or a mop handle for that. So it's mainly going to use a visual aid, so I'll show you what I'm talking about now. So first of all, our deadlift, we're using the stick primarily to make sure we're in the right position. So what I'm talking about here is our spine alignment, and what we want is 3 main connection points with the stick. So the 3 points are the bottom at the top of your bum here, so your coccyx bone, we're looking to connect here. We're looking to connect to the upper back around this point here, and then finally we're looking to connect to the head up here, okay? So with your stick, we're going to start on an all-four position. So if I'm going to take the stick with my hand facing down and put it to the back of the head, like so. And then all I'm going to do is hinge forward, just so that the stick is resting here, so I'm on this all fours position. Now if I go for a cat-cow, you can obviously see that when I round, it comes off for some positions, and when I arch, it comes off others. So what we want is a nice flat back with a core brace with all 3 connection points there, okay? So first of all, I've got my head against the stick here, I've got the bottom against my coccyx, and then I've got this midpoint on my back. If there's a little gap here, that's okay. The main thing is the 3 points are on, and my core is engaged. You don't have to have the lower back connected to it like so. You can kind of get it there, but generally you need to have the hips tucked so that the coccyx are on, but also the mid back and head are on too. I'm in this nice brace position here. The back's flat and I can feel it is because the stick's telling me that it is, okay? So that's how the stick's going to be useful today. Now from here, we're going to go for a kickback, or like a half bird dog. I'm not using the arms, but just using the legs. So half bird dog here would be, you can hold the stick down at the bottom here with in fact I'm going to show you this side so you get a better look. So now I'm going to be taking this leg out like so. So while I'm maintaining all 3 points, that leg is just going in and out. What can happen here is rounding as the knee comes in, or overarching as the knee goes out. That's what we need to avoid, okay? So we've got that nice flat back, 3 connection points are on, and we're going to take that leg out like so. So give this a go. Let's go for 8 on this side here. Maintaining those 3 connection points, not losing them at any part of the motion, keeping the core nice and strong. Once you've done that, simply swap hands, get into that position again, core strong. Same again here, find those 3 connection points, legs going out straight, like so. So if you can do this, then great. If you can't, and there's parts throughout this session that you can't do, then please drop me a message, because you may need help elsewhere that I'm not going to particularly cover in this video, because I can't cover everything. So I'm just going to cover the main fundamentals today. So if there is anything that I'm asking you to do and you simply can't, then let me know and I can help you out personally. But now you've done that, we started here because there's some limitations to doing a deadlift standing up. The main one being with beginners and hamstrings. So just a quick run through the hamstrings. Your hamstrings are a biarticular muscle, which simply means they cross over two joints. So your hamstring here crosses over your knee joint back here like so. So like your biceps, your hamstrings perform this motion here like so. So they're doing that now. So when I'm here, it's flexed. So if I take my foot out, my hamstring is extended. So pulling like so, so it's fully stretched out, that would be. But it also, your hamstring also connects up here into the hip like so. So, which also means at the moment it's flexed at this joint, obviously extended at this joint, but flexed at this joint. And when I bring it up here, you're then stretching out that hamstring there, hence why this is a hamstring stretch for the top part of the hamstring. Whereas I'm still, if I bend this part, the lower part of the hamstring's flexed, but this part is still being stretched at the bottom. So either way, you can see I can come nowhere near as far while bending this part, because only at this part is it being stretched. The reason I'm telling you this is because when we're standing up, we're obviously in this position here. As soon as I start to hinge forward, we're starting to extend and stretch that hamstring here like so. And what some beginners do straight away when they try and perform a deadlift or a hip hinge is they lock out the legs. By locking out the legs, you are putting your hamstrings totally locked out down at the bottom here. So when you try and hinge forward, you've got no give in the hamstrings. So whether you have loose or tight hamstrings or not, locking them out really puts them in their most extended position as you try and hinge forward, and causes you most likely to have to round the back, because we don't have the range of motion and mobility in the hamstrings and the hips to maintain a hip hinge without rounding when we're locking out those legs. So mistake number one with the deadlift tends to be a locking out of the legs. So we're going to try and get rid of that straight away first of all. So what we need to do is what I refer to as soft knees. So we need to kind of almost relax our legs a little bit, making sure we're not locking out those legs. So when I talk about this, soft knees, I'm literally talking about rather than locked out here, they're just a bit soft, a little bendy, as soon as you start to enter the hip hinge, okay? So we're not looking to squat or anything really bend them, they're just relaxed, they're just kind of in this position here where I can bounce them a little bit rather than locked out, all rigid, okay? So with that, with working on this, when we're standing up in this starting position, the legs are obviously straight, but as soon as you start to hinge, soften the knees. Now it's only a tiny movement, so I'm going to show you here. So this is me standing up straight. As you can see, my whole body's within this straight line. As soon as I start to hinge, if I lock my knees out, the legs stay in that straight line, but I'm eventually going to round. So all I need you to do, as soon as you start to hinge, tiny bend of the knees, soft knees, and as you hinge forward. So you can see, it's really not much of a bend. What we don't want to do, alternatively, is go too far the other way. A lot of people try and bend their knees in a squat like so, which I'm going to cover more in a second with one of the main issues that we have. But all we want is to make sure you're not locking out those knees first of all. So, little soft knee as you start to hinge. It's really not much of a bend, but it allows the hamstrings not to cause you too much grief trying to call it a performance deadlift. So now we've got that, I want you to start up in this position here, standing up straight, and then we're going to use the stick again. So take the stick by having your thumb down and your hand upside down like so, and you're going to take it and push it against your head like we did on the floor. The other hand comes behind, hold it to your coccyx down here, and then we're just going to make sure we're not arching or rounding too much. If we round, then we lose the coccyx. If we arch too much, then we've got no back. So mid-back connection around here, like so. So once you're in this position, now give this a go. So lock out those legs, and now try and perform a hip hinge with locked out legs and maintaining these 3 positions. So I'm going to go for it. This is about as deep as I can get, which clearly isn't very low. If I go any further, see I've lost that coccyx connection. So that's the problem with having those locked out legs. So bring yourselves back up. Soft knees as you start to hinge forward. And you can feel the hamstrings are loaded, but you manage to get quite a bit lower due to that little adjustment with knees. So now I just want you to practice this. Again, don't go too far that we're losing any connection points. Maintain all 3. We're just going back, up and down, soft knees. Like so. Up and down. Maintaining those 3 connection points. By maintaining those 3 connection points, it allows you to know that you're hinging from the hips and nowhere else. Because you're keeping that nice flat position, the core's on, back and forth we go. Like so. And you can't practice this enough. So that's why we're doing quite a few reps of it, so keep it going. Hinging back and forth like so. So once you've nailed that, once that feels okay, again, if anything doesn't, and you're really struggling, drop me a message, because this is complicated stuff in terms of learning when you're a beginner. If that feels okay, then we're going to bring the stick in front of us like so, as if we were holding a barbell. We're just going to use it as our deadlift, okay? So again, we're not going too low to start. We're looking to go just above the knees. So if I hinge here with that same technique, if you feel like you're losing the technique, then simply put that stick back on your back and go back to that and practice. But here, so as you can see, same thing, soft knees, I'm hinging down, I'm maintaining that flat back as if the stick was still there, and I'm coming back up. Now, like we practiced last Friday, you can see that my bum is going backwards as I hinge down. Now there's a ton of cues in order to realise if you're doing the deadlift right or not. I'm going to go through them without trying to complicate it too much. Like, the first one is just getting used to this motion here. We're pushing that bum back, we've got soft knee just coming to the top of the knee, and we've got that flat back. Okay, so that's the next part you need to learn. Up and down with that stick. You can see I'm almost like pushing it against my thigh. That can help some people learn the motion. You don't need to do that, because we don't do that in the actual deadlift. We just take it straight down and straight up. Bum's going back. So keep practicing this, just going to the top of the knee first of all. Working this small range of motion, learning that initial movement. Because after this it does get more complicated. Nice flat back, hinging, back and forth, like so, okay? So if we need to go any lower in the deadlift, then some things have got to change. So as you can see there, if I show you that hinge again, what we were just doing in that small range of motion, I've just got that tiny little bend in the knee, like I asked you to put in there straight away, and otherwise it's not bending too much at all. If I try and go any lower in that deadlift, I'm not going to be able to. So a Romanian deadlift is one where you keep your legs kind of in that position, so putting a lot of pressure on the hamstrings. So if I show you here, you go down. If I want to keep going down, that's about as far as I can get. So I am below the knees, I can feel the hamstrings are loaded, which is the idea, but I can't get any lower than that. And if you're performing Romanian deadlifts, then that's all you need. We don't want to be bending the knees too much and coming to here, like so, okay? So that is our Romanian deadlift, which makes us just keep those knees in that softer position and then hinging back and forth. Therefore, training and loading the hamstrings. So the hamstrings are a big focus in the Romanian deadlift. If we're performing a proper deadlift and we're trying to go all the way down to the floor in your standard deadlift, then the knees have to come into play a bit more. But one of the main issues with bringing them in is where they bend at the knee, okay? So if I'm looking at this part here, then down we go. What a lot of people do is think about the knees and try and do a squat. So a squat down and try and deadlift like that. But that is compromising the path we want to take for the deadlift. So if you watch the end of this stick here, we want this stick to go straight down and straight back up like this. So if you watch the stick, it goes down, and straight back up. My body's almost moving around the deadlift, the barbell, sorry, and it just stays in that straight line of motion. By squatting into it, you've got to watch here, you can see the stick has to go forward and then back, as we're having to lift it around the knees. So down it goes and back. That's what we don't want to happen. So if you're going to go for a full deadlift, what we need to make sure is that our knees aren't getting in the way. That means that we need to be able to deadlift down just past our knees in this first position we just practiced. So now we're going to try and take it a bit further. We're going to deadlift down until we get past the knees. If you can't get to this position, then there's maybe some ability and things you need to work on first before you look to deadlift for a full range of motion. And again, if that's you, drop me a message. But if you can, then from here, you're going to need to deadlift down to this position just past the knees. Once you're past the knees then can then come forward inside those arms, and then you can come back up like so. If I show you front arm, you've got feet shoulder width apart. You've got to get past those knees first. Your hands have got to be wider than your knees, because then you allow the space for those knees to come in and then back out, okay? So if I show you again, this deadlift down to that just below the knee position first. So down we go and then back up. Don't go just yet. Make sure you can perform this motion first. Can you get past the knees whilst just having those soft knees like we practiced at the start? So if you are able to get past the knees, that is the point at which those knees can start to bend, and you can put the knees more forward over the bar. So you can see my knees are over the bar now. I'm staying in my flat back position, coming back up. As I come back up, the legs extend and move out the way. So if at any point, if you're feeling you have to lift past the knees, that coming up or down, then we need to get our timing right of when those knees bend. So watch as we go down, keep it going. I'm in this position, now I'm past the knees, I can start to bend here. I'm in that low position. As I come up, the legs start to extend to get out the way of the bar, and I'll return to that starting position. So we're going to finish off practicing some of these. So down we go, past the knees, and then you can bend. Back up to that starting position. Watching the end of that stick. See how it's staying dead straight line up and down. When we get to the top, we don't want you leaning backwards here. When you've got heavy weight, it's easy to try and shift the weight like up here. I just want you to stand up straight, tuck the glutes and squeeze the glutes. This is our finishing position, just standing up straight. As we go down, we hinge. As soon as we pass those knees, we can take it down, and then we can bring it back up, like so. Same again, take it down, hinge, into that position, maintaining that flat back the whole time. So finally I'm going to show you with the stick, just to re-emphasize it. Here we go, hinging down, then as I get lower, I'm still maintaining those 3 points, and I come back up. Core strong, hinge, soft knees, bend once you pass the knees with the bar, and you come back up, like so. That is your deadlift. Now I know it's a lot to take in. I feel like I've run out of time really quickly trying to explain it because it takes a long time. But I hope I've given you some good fundamentals there to start with if you're a beginner really trying to learn a deadlift. I'll probably do some more videos on this as it goes on to try and help you more and more. But also please do get in touch because I can help you personally. I'm happy to do that. But otherwise I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have a nice weekend, and I hope you can join me tomorrow for my 2.6 challenge for my bear crawl as well. But otherwise, have a great weekend, and I'll post a new schedule for next week on Sunday.